had a conversation on a Facebook group. So it's probably Lash Artist Lounge or Lash Tips and Tricks or something like that, and the Facebook group. And so a lot of times there's tons of comments all the time that say, my retention is, used to be good and now it's not, or I'm struggling with it right now. And I was reading through the 25 comments or whatever, and everyone's giving the same advice, check your temperature and humidity in your environment, and suggesting glues, and talking about cleaning lashes, and does your client use aftercare and everything. I'm like, duh, if you've been in a course, you know these things, right? You know that temperature and humidity it's a given. You have to have good temperature, good humidity. For your adhesive, you know that your client has to have good aftercare, and you know that all these basic things that people always say, right? And you've tried 100 glues or whatever, and maybe your glue used to work for you and it's not working now. And so I see these comments and threads on these Facebook groups, and it breaks my heart, because that's not helping somebody. And you can't pack everything you've learned over your lash career into a Facebook comment post. But so I try to offer some other things to consider when you're having troubles with retention, whether you're just starting out or you're advanced. Some things to try to help you have better retention. Why do we want better retention? I mean, hello, it's the key to building your clientele. Lashes that last, right? And we want to do them healthfully and safely. Hey, Ashley. Thanks for joining, guys. So we want them to last. We want them to be healthy. We want that client to be able to come back over and over. And if we can provide them with great retention, along with a great feeling service where they feel it's a great value for what they pay for, whether that's $150 for a fill or $75 for a fill, or whatever you're charging, it's a value to them. That's what matters, right? So the lashes has to last. They have to be comfortable. They have to have a great service. So kind of bugged me when I saw this post today, and then I commented, and I gave them 3 things to look at when they were talking about retention, and it got a ton of likes and love, because they were different. It was something different than what people normally say, which is, have you checked your temperature and humidity, get a dehumidifier, try this glue, yada yada. So I thought that I would share this with my followers and keep it in my IGTV so that people can look at it. And so this is where I will impart some of the things that I've learned over my lash life, right? And as a manufacturer, someone who works with manufacturer to formulate their own adhesive and primer and super bond and lashes and everything else that you need for lashes, is really important to me that I create great product, and I'm obsessed with fresh glue, right? And great products. But what can everybody do, no matter what products they're using, to improve their retention? And what are some things that maybe you guys may not be considering? So I'll jump in, right? So first of all, lashes have to be the correct weight and length for the natural lash in order to last, even if they're applied perfectly, right? So if they're too heavy, meaning too long, unbalanced, or too heavy, you're not going to have great retention. You might once or twice, but as that hair and that follicle become stressed and weaker over time, they're not going to last as long. and they're not going to be comfortable for your client, which is going to cause them to overbrush them and touch them over much. So that is something that a lot of people don't talk about, and why it's important to take a volume course so that you understand weights and lengths appropriate to a lash. And as you get to know each person's lashes, you can break the rules or pull back on the rules according to what their lash can handle. It gives you a guide, and then you have to test how far you can take it with length and weight, because not all roots are the same, not all hair is the same, and so everybody's different. But in general, following the general guidelines for volume and using a volumetric calculator, or the graph that you would get in a proper volume course, will help. So if you're having problems with retention, one of the things that I would suggest that you do is pull back on your length and weight. So if you were using 10D 05s, maybe pulling back to 7 or 8D or even 5D 05s and coming back 1 or 2 millimeters. You would be surprised how little the person will notice coming back those 1 or 2 millimeters, because if they were too heavy, they're hanging down, and now you've taken them down shorter 2 more millimeters, and all of a sudden they're popped up. So you see more of the front of the lash, they don't really look any shorter. So that's something to think about. Also, I don't really worry too much about oil and water with my clients, because acrylic is waterproof, and when adhesive is applied correctly and cured correctly, then it is water and oil proof. It is the hair that's not oil and waterproof, right? And so if someone is swimming and has this active lifestyle where they're having to wash their face 10 times a day, or their lashes are getting drenched with sweat 10 times a day, or they have a mean boyfriend and they're crying, which we need to help them with that too, right? It's not good for their lashes, just because water is going to weigh them down. It's going to cause aggressive brushing, and if they're swimming, sport swimming, not just like glam hanging out at the pool, then all that extra weight on the lashes and resistance from swimming is going to cause them to have a lot more stress. So that could be a thing. But I also want to talk about some practical things. So you want to have great retention, and you want to have your clients come back with a lot of lashes, you have to cover every one of them. Every lashable lash. That means every strong teenager and definitely every adult with the appropriate length and weight for those lashes. So you can't do 50% coverage and expect them to come back with 50% all those lashes back. It's just not going to work mathematically. So working on getting full coverage will help your clients come back with tons of lashes, right? So if you have a teenager lash and you put an 8mm fan or single on it, when they come back, it's going to have grown 2 to 4 millimeters. So you just want to make sure that you're thinking 2 to 3 weeks ahead. How much is this going to grow, and put the appropriate size lash on that. So working to get complete coverage and getting that underlayer is really going to make those sets look like they're lasting longer and allow you to have better retention without not necessarily doing anything. So if you are having good glue management and all of your practices are great, and you're just not seeing your clients come back with a lot of lashes, you just have to look and see, are you covering all the lashes? So you might already have this figured out. You just need to work on time management, or maybe extending your time a little bit more, and get those lashes and charge accordingly. Because when your retention goes up, you can charge whatever you want. So what's in it for you is you can charge more because you're giving them a better value, right? Their lashes are lasting longer than the girl next door. So that covers density. Glue dipping. So with volume, a lot of the or classic, when people say, oh, your retention is suffering, you must be going too slow to the lash, right? Okay, that might be something to think about. But are you getting enough glue? Yes, I said it. You may need more glue, especially in the summertime or on thicker lashes. You may need more glue. And if you're using pre-mades or pro-mades, then you definitely need to get enough glue so that when it comes up to the lash, although the fan might not wrap, the glue will make a circle around the lash. So don't be shy. Don't overuse. You don't want to use too much, but you need the right amount of glue. And I would have you look at YouTube or on Instagram at Untamed Artistry, because when I trained with her last year, this was a revelation to me and was one of the things that really changed my lash game. So I would have you look at that. Okay, how much glue you are using. You should not be dipping in and out. You should actually be getting a little scoop on your lash, and having that and wet while you go to attach it is going to really help you get a stronger attachment. Here's something that a lot of people don't talk about. I talk about this in training, and I can't remember where I got this little tidbit from. It might have been Lash 411 or Lena Maylook of Lash Makers or Cheryl Fang of Untamed Artistry, probably one of those three. But I call it the vampire effect. Does anybody know what the vampire effect is? Give me some hearts or something if you know what it is. All right, you might not know about the vampire effect. So the vampire effect is when, I see this a lot when I'm doing advanced training or mentoring, is when they put their new drop of glue, which by the way, every 15 minutes or 30 minutes max. But they have this old drop of glue, and then they put a new drop of glue right next to it. What happens is what I call the vampire effect. Your new drop of glue, or your old drop of glue, will vampire off of your new drop of glue. So your new drop of glue is never going to be any subsequent drops of glue that you put on the same micropore tape or jade stone, wherever you put it. If you're putting it next to an old drop, stop that right now, and your glue will perform better. So this old drop is searching for moisture, and it's taking it from the air. So now this drop has less, right? And moisture in the air is what cures cyanacrylate. Worse yet is if you neutralize this drop with water and then continue working with this drop over here. Don't do that. You have just put access to hydrogen and oxygen molecules, and that makes water, and that's what cures adhesive. So this drop will never perform as good as it would if it was just by itself. So let your drop go solo, and your glue will perform much better. Okay? I call that the vampire effect. This can also happen in glue trays, like those flower wells that you can get, which I love. You can use those, but you really want to get as far away from them, or better yet, just have 4 or 5 of them, and have 4 or 5 of them, and always just use a fresh drop in a fresh tray and kind of rotate them so you can use them all up, because I love those, because your glue can last 30 minutes easy in those glue flower with the tons of the little divots. Or if you're used to using like a Lash box tray, I don't even know where mine are. I don't use them anymore, but they have the little divots. Is this same for a glue ring? Yes. So if you use a split cup glue ring and you put your glue here and then your second drop of glue here, it will vampire. Also, you never want to just add glue to your old glue. It'll never be as good as your first drop. So if you use glue rings and you use a split well, you can use one side and then put your drop of water in it, neutralize it, get another glue ring and use it, and then tomorrow use these 10 again. Just keep it in rotation, or throw it away. You know, if you use a single well, you always want to throw it away. So that is huge. And in a glue ring, you really always want to be going. I see tons of people going in and using glue off the side because they can really control it, and they're swiping it on their glue ring and their, you know, their fan or their lash, and it kind of breaks my heart because I know that that lash is not going to last as long as if they would have gone into the center of the dot. And that's why I like a jade stone with a bubble, because you can only want to use that top of the bubble. You never want to go all the way down to the tape, and you never want to use just like scoop it from the side, because you're basically picking up a skin on the glue, because it's curing. The outside of the glue is curing, and the bottom where the tape is having a exothermic reaction with the tape and is curing from the bottom up. So you only want to stay in that top little ring of the, you only want to scoop out of the freshest, liquidest part of the glue, even though the thick stuff's easier to handle and see. So that will help your retention by always using that fresh part of the glue. So I covered the vampire effect. Any other questions before I move on to my next topic about glue and retention, how it can affect your retention? And do those things make sense, or any questions? Okay. Storage of glue. So when you get your glue, it's in a nice sealed, airtight container. We think it's airtight, right? And if you're lucky, it comes with a color indicating silica gel pack. Now, why is this important? I don't know if you can tell with this, but this has pink and it has little colored dots in here, right? So these are the ones I use and I send with my adhesive. I'm switching over to a blue and pink one. It's because they're easier to see if they're fresh, but I've had people ask, like, why do you send such a big packet? And I'll tell you why. Because I did a little experiment and I put a color indicating one, which is, I used a pink and blue one, but it was blue. And it was tiny, a small one, about the size you normally get in a glue pack. And I watched it change color in about 10 days from blue to pink, which means when it turns from blue to pink, it's no good anymore. It's not absorbing moisture. It only lasted 10 days. 10 days. I keep my glue for 30 days in my little airtight container, my airtight jar, right? So this is a vac jar, right? You can hear the air gets pushed out when I use this, right? And I keep up to 3 adhesives going at all times. Right now I'm in 2. So I thought, well, what about those little packs that I get in all this glue that I've been using? They're dead on arrival, dudes. They're dead on arrival. And if your manufacturer is packaging them when they're made, and they may keep that glue on the shelf for a year, what are you getting? Yuck. Which is why I started working with manufacturers for glue. But okay, so the reason that I send these is when they change color, they're dead. You need another one, and they can be recharged with heat. So if you put them in the microwave for 5 or 10 seconds at a time, they will recharge. And so like these, I have a couple pink ones in here, but they're turning green, and that means this is almost dead. And so I send a big pack like this. And so when they change color, it tells you that your silica is not absorbing moisture anymore, right? So these actually tell you a story. So you may be using, even though your glue is less than a month old, it's not being protected against humidity in the air, and it may be curing, especially if your glue top is not pristine like it is when it's new, right? If you have anything on the edge, then you cannot get a tight seal, and moisture from the air is going in there. So just think of it like a nail polish bottle. If you keep the top pristine and clean and wiped every time, your nail polish will last forever. But hardly anybody does that because they get it messed up, and then it can't create a good seal, and air is going into the nail polish bottle and spoiling it. And so when you don't have a good seal on your glue, and you don't have a fresh color indicating you know it's fresh, you know it's absorbing moisture, right? Rice can't tell you that, and a clear or white silica pack can't tell you if it's fresh or not. Your glue is not really protected. So maybe your clients at the beginning of the month are having better retention than your clients at the end of the month. Could be your glue storage, and could be your nozzle management. So those are two other things to think about when it comes to retention, because those things will affect your retention. Make sense? Hey, Lash Addict. Thanks for joining. We're talking all things glue, retention. I'm trying to share as much as I can. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about glue. And this is not a sales pitch for my glue, but I will say this. The reason that I started working with manufacturer to produce adhesive is because I would get my adhesive and from my favorite places for about 2 or 3 times before it failed me. And I couldn't figure out why my favorite adhesives were failing me. And then I went for a training, and I went to a HQ. I'm not going to say the brand's name, but I did go to their training, and we got a tour of their warehouse. And at about a 90-degree day in July, a couple years ago, I walked through their warehouse, and I saw all these bins of packaged adhesive. Great, except the doors to the warehouse, the garage doors to the warehouse were open. And I started asking some questions, and I said, yeah, how long, is your glue on hand? And they said 6 months to a year, because it's good for 6 months to a year. So think about that. Whether it's really cold or really hot, you don't know how they're storing this huge quantity of glue because they got it for however many months of orders, and it's sitting there. Like, you wouldn't store your glue once it got to your house or your lash studio like that. And so you don't know if they've had it for 1 month or 12 months and they sold it to you, right? And then you're going to keep it for 6 months. So you might be using glue that's 18 months old on your client. I'm sorry, I was blown away by that. And so then I started seeking out some other smaller lash companies and started asking about, like, how many months do you keep your glue and how do you store it? And I learned a lot from Untamed Artistry, who has amazing products. Their retention and invisible ink adhesive kind of changed my life, right? And the thing I really liked about Cheryl is that she orders glue often in small batches. And I thought, freaking brilliant. And she's kind of obsessive about it, like I am, and uses the color indicating silica packs, right? So when I started working with my manufacturer, we have a schedule, and at first I started getting glue every 2 months, and now that I sell enough glue, I get fresh glue every single month. So right now it's August 1st, and I have about 10 bottles of Megabond on hand. I have about 7 bottles of Domino on hand, and I have about 20 bottles of Vesper. When I get my new shipment in on the 5th, I will test each one of them, and then I will pitch anything that's left over. So your glue is 6 weeks old max when you purchase it from me. So this is not a plug for my adhesive, but freshness matters. So if you're doing all the things that you can, and your attachment point's right, your storage is right, your lashes are, you're putting lashes on clean lashes, you're using the right amount of glue, you are getting the density, all those things, maybe it is your glue. Maybe it's time to find something else, right? So the other thing about glue is how often you're replacing it. And one of the reasons why it was really important for me to price point my adhesive at, I don't make very much on it, but at $27, I can have 2 bottles of glue in the month for the same price as 1 bottle from some of my other favorite glue manufacturers. And I'm always using fresh glue. So I lash about 5 people a day, and I open and close. If I'm redotting every 15 to 20 minutes, which I do, then I'm opening and closing it 20 times a day, which is 100 times a week. And every time you open it, you are exposing it to air. And so if you lash a lot, you should maybe think about replacing your glue before the end of the bottle. I'm not a big fan of having 3 or 4 bottles of glue in the back, like having a backlog, because why do that? Because you can have it fresh. If you find a manufacturer that does it fresh, like me or Untamed Artistry, for example. But that's something to think about. You don't have to keep your glue for a month just because the manufacturers, or in training it said replace your glue every 4 weeks. It's pretty much a guide. If you're really busy, you need to probably replace it more often. And if you're not as busy, you can probably get 6 weeks out of it if you're absolutely storing it correctly and that nozzle is nice and clean. And I do have a video on glue nozzle management and how to have a pristine cap of glue. This is not a new bottle of glue, but this is what my bottles of glue always look like. The nozzle, not a new nozzle, not a new bottle of glue. And I never get them stuck. I never have to use a push pin, although I know that people who use my adhesive have said that they have to, and they need those nozzles, not extra nozzles and push pins, but I do include. So there's something that you can change to make your glue nozzle not get messed up. Okay, that's a video that's already been done, and it's in my IGTV. Okay, let's talk about, so we talked about silica and how to keep your glue fresh. So get some color if you use any glue other than my, because I send the color indicating ones, you can go on Amazon and look up dry, And you can get color indicating one. I recommend you get the 5 gram, the 2 or the 5 gram pack. That's the size you need. And they are rechargeable, so it's really a one-time investment. And more is not more. You only need one baggie, this size or smaller, for your adhesive. Okay. Rice. You can use rice. Don't go overboard. You don't have to fill a mason jar up to the top with rice. Lena at Lash Makers, Lena Maluk, since she's married now, she kind of turned me on to this little bit. You know, rice needs to be changed too, and you don't need to fill and submerge your adhesive in a rice jar. And it is super drying, so you may be over drying the air around your glue. And especially if you're using a vacuum jar or a sealed mason jar, it's a little overkill. And she says that it can make your glue ineffective because it's over drying it. So she doesn't recommend rice, but I do know that if you do use rice, you don't need to use a ton, and you need to replace it. I would say every month, just put more in the bottle. So, any questions or comments on that as we move on? Okay. All right. All this is to help your retention. So this all goes back to retention, and we're talking about things other than the obvious humidity and temperature that everyone is always saying to think about when you're having poor retention. These are other things to think about. We're going to go back on some glue, and then we're going to talk about clients' actual lashes that can be messing with your retention. So, glue. We all know we're supposed to shake it for 2 minutes in the beginning of the day, and 30 seconds between redotting. But the other thing I want you to think about, and if you use clear glue, you can actually see this. When you shake it for that long, especially if you use one of these electric mixers, like a Vortex mixer or a Lab Genius or one of those spinners, those are great, but they create air bubbles, and they can separate your glue. So you don't want to use them too long, but if you manually shake your glue for 2 minutes in the morning and you're busy all day, you should be able to just do a quick shake, 20-30 seconds between, stretch and shake it. But you're creating air bubbles inside of your adhesive. So one of the things, and I think this is one of the things that helps me have clean nozzles, is before you open it, get in the habit of just hitting it on your palm of your hand a couple times. And that is going to, just like you would if you've ever poured cake batter into a pan, before you put it in the oven, it's a good idea to drop the cake pan onto a flat surface like your countertop to make the air bubbles pop out, right? So you don't have a bunch of holes in your cake. You want more dense cake, that's what you do, right? It's the same thing with glue. When you're shaking it, you're getting all these air bubbles in it, which is fine, but you don't want to have tiny little air bubbles stuck to between your lash and the extension. You want a seamless coating of glue. So get rid of some of those air bubbles by just giving it 2, like that. That's what I do. And then when you open your glue, you're going to have you're not going to have anything sitting up here except what was left in the nozzle. And guess what you need to do with that? You need to discard that drop. That little bit in that nozzle is yucky. Don't use it on your client. Discard that first drop. Come back nice and slow. Let it all go down, and then drop it onto your jade stone. Your fresh drop onto your jade stone. And then when you go to, see I have it left there? Let it suck back in and all the way down. And I don't have any gook on my nozzle, but I'm still going to burp it and wipe it, and it's perfect. Still perfect. No yucky nozzles, and that helps your glue stay better. Okay, so I just keep a little nail dapping dish. These are like 30 cents on Amazon or the nail store or whatever, and I just put plain tap water in it, and I just drop glue into it all day. And at the end of the night, it hardens up, turns into a little disc, and I just throw it away. Put fresh water in it the next day. Ah. Okay. Super bonders and primers. I worked with my manufacturer to create a different kind of primer. I'm not saying it's totally unique on the market, but there are ingredients in it that actually work with adhesive. It doesn't just prep the lashes for removing protein and drying them out, which the alcohol will work in that function. And that's why saline water, like contact lens solution, can work as well. It will help remove protein. But there are other ingredients in there that actually work with, it's silane in a small amount, an appropriate amount to work in cosmetics. And it works with acrylic. And it activates like the linking, the polymerization, and creates that magnetic effect. So primers are not cleansers. So of course the lash needs to be super clean because, and even if they clean them that day, but they don't normally clean them every day, they probably have a wax buildup on their lash. And that may be causing the retention problem on one client where all the rest of your clients have good retention. So get it clean. Super bonders. So those are used at the end of the service, and they accelerate curing, theoretically from the inside out. They force the polymerization to happen throughout the entire adhesion point, wherever there's adhesive, and instantly cure, eliminating fumes, making them instantly waterproof. And it just it's like washing the lashes after a service. So you want to wait 3 to 5 minutes after you place the lash, and then you put the super bonder on there, which has the ingredients that instantly cure, eliminate the fumes, and make them instantly waterproof. I use Primetime Domino or Megabond adhesive and super bonder, and my retention has been insane. So insane that when I'm doing fills, I'm able to do even more beautiful work because I can really take my time. I can make perfect fans. I can, I don't have to rush through fills because they're coming in with so many more lashes, and it's really helping my lash work look even better than it was beforehand. So my retention has always been pretty good, but now it's insane. Like, it's so good. And even with the masks and the humidity coming up, like, I tape those down with micropore tape, and that's been working great. So there's that. So the last thing is not all lash cleansers are created equal. Like I see on these Facebook posts, going back to, what really prompted this live today is all the questions that people have about retention. And I wanted to come here and share the things that people don't talk about and that I know are very important to retention, that I've learned over time and that are kind of hard to convey unless you see what someone's doing. But not all lash cleansers are created equal. It's got to have bubbles. So how I've helped my clients understand how well they need to clean their lashes, they don't need to be vigorous, but they do need to understand. So a lot of people don't wash their hair every day anymore. I don't. I only wash, my hair's dry, my scalp's, not oily. I can go 4 or 5 days without washing my hair. But when I do wash my hair, I need to wash it twice. So, because the first time it barely lathers. And the first time it barely lathers, and that means that it was just breaking down the residue that's on my scalp and on my hair. And it's a waxy coating that actually forms to the hair. Yes, Lash Addict, I am saving it. As long as Instagram doesn't screw me. So, saving it. So this will be available on my IGTV and my story. So you can watch it later because it's long. It's going to go, almost an hour, I guess, all the way. So anyways, I was talking about, like, if you don't wash your hair for a week, you're going to have to, like, apply shampoo twice. You're going to have to apply shampoo, you're going to have to rinse it, and then you're going to have to apply shampoo again. And you notice when you apply that shampoo the second time, you get all these bubbles, right? Well, the bubbles in the shampoo is what carries away the dirt and oils, right? So if you're washing your lashes and the foam is disappearing, it's broken it down, but it hasn't yet washed it away. You need to wash it twice. So that's why I normally wash my clients' lashes for them, even if they wash them that day. And if you're not into washing your clients' lashes for them, send them to the bathroom and have them wash them again, so that you make sure that you are actually applying your product, whether it's primer or going straight to lashing, that it's actually sticking to the cuticle of the hair, which in its correct pristine state is not smooth. When it's perfect for lashing, it's actually a little rough. And when it's got any residue on it from daily life and not cleaning your lashes, it's going to be smooth because it's going to have a wax buildup on it. So just think about it. It's kind of like the same wax buildup that's in your ears, keratin is. So instead of the cuticle of the hair, which kind of looks like the trunk of a palm tree, it's like got all this like shapes in it, like cracked desert, right, is what it should look like. Instead of the adhesive going in there and filling those cracks and making a beautiful interlinked strong bond, right, if the lashes aren't clean and maybe even not primed, then you've got a smooth surface on the hair that's wax and keratin and grossness, makeup and sunscreen and whatever, and you have adhesive which does not have texture and it's just smooth, and so they peel apart easily. So those lashes aren't going to last as long. And so this is why I think it's a really good idea for people to have their clients wash their lashes before they come, wash them again for them, because you're going to be able to see if they foam up. So if you wash your clients' lashes and they don't foam, they didn't clean them, or they didn't clean them right? So a lot of times I'll do a lash bath, I'll do a rinse, and I'll do another quick lash bath till the bubbles stay. When the bubbles have stayed, then I know those lashes are really clean. And then just make sure they're super dry. Use your fan, and I have these coming to the pro shop soon, or hand fan or blower or whatever you use to dry your client's lashes. And then you can get right to the primer if you feel like that's going to help them, or you can commence to lashing. You just don't want to lash on a wet hair. Why? Because cyanacrylate on a wet hair will cure too fast. It'll turn white and blanch or bloom, and it cracks it because it cures too fast. So you want that hair to be dry. That's the risk of washing lashes before your appointment, is kind of just not giving them time to dry. Some clients' hair dries really fast. Some clients' hair takes forever. So that's what I have to say about prepping the hair. So again, this live was just about all those other things about retention that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And I wanted to share them with you, and I hope they there was something in here that helped you, that's going to help you have a better lash life. Because I know when my retention is really good, then I really look forward to each client, and I look forward to creating art because I'm not in rush mode, I'm not in repair mode, and I'm not scared that my client is not happy with me. And when my retention's on point, I just don't feel like anything bad can happen. Like, you know, they are happy with me. I'm having fun. I'm not stressed out. I'm not, oh my God, what are her lashes going to look like today? I only have an hour and 15 minutes. Or, you know, here's the other thing, that having poor retention, it stresses us out because we should be asking them to pay us more because we have to do more work. So, you know, sometimes I have to do that. I'm like, oh, it's $25 or $40 more today because I had to do a lot of work. Now I feel like I only have to, that only comes up because if they're going, you know, 3.5, 4 weeks between fills, then yeah. But it's been really great since I've kind of figured out some things. And I have added, I use Domino Ultra Bond, Domino Clear Bond, and M Mega Bond. But mostly these days I'm using Domino Clear Bond, and it's a little slower, and I like it because I'm taking my time now that I have good retention, right? I really like it, and I've been using Prime Time on everybody. And my clients with kind of drier lashes, what I've been doing is on a lip gloss applicator, I've been adding some distilled water and then putting the Prime Time on that, so it's not as like strong, I guess, because I just don't want their lashes to dry out, because there is a little alcohol in there, and it needs to be in there because it needs to evaporate, and that's what helps it. The last thing I wanted to show you guys was my new Pro-Made lashes that are going to be launching. In 10D and 5D are coming, but they are the needle base Pro-Mades. And I don't know if there's any way you're going to be able to see this bad boy. Oh my goodness, how do I show you? How do those YouTubers and Instagram people do that? But look how tiny that base is. They're heat bonded, and it's a little 10D fan. It's so beautiful. Can you see it? Like air. So it's 05 and they're 10D, and they just are the pointiest needly based bases, and they're as beautiful or more beautiful than what I can make by hand. So I'm excited to launch those, and you're the first to see it. Well, the second to see it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please feel free to DM me with any comments or questions. And if I said something incorrect, please let me know. I love to learn. I am such a geek. And if you want to go more in depth on something, I'm happy to have that you know, side conversation with you. But I hope you all have a great day. Happy lashing. Take care. Bye.